It is so important to set clear goals, understand your audience, and develop a content calendar that ensures not only consistent success with growth, but consistent sales. And entrepreneurs need to learn to streamline their marketing efforts for maximum impact. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Socially Ausome Podcast. I'm your host, Alyece Smith, and today we're diving into Content Strategy 101. And I got really inspired to do this episode after my masterclass last week called From Views to Revenue, where we talked about building out your content strategy from scratch, okay? From zero, and how important it is to align your marketing efforts with your sales system and your offering your ideal client. And if you missed the masterclass, you weren't able to attend it live, DM me the word revenue on IG, and I'll send you all the details about getting the replay. But we're going to talk today about the blueprints for consistent success, because let's face it, winging it only works for so long, right? Maybe you started your business, you were clueless on how to create content, so you just started kind of copying what's out there, and that's okay. That's how most beginners learn, right? We watch what's working for other people and recreate it of our own. But when we get down to business, you need your own content strategy, and it has to be tailored to your ideal client's needs and desires. And it's kind of like building a house, right? You start with a plan, unless you're aiming for a Pinterest fail, and I'm not going to take you back to my 2012 Pinterest days, but you got to have a plan, right? Because let's be honest, what you've been doing up until this point may not be working for you. So step one is really setting clear goals. What do you want to achieve with your content? Is it more followers? Is it more sales? Are you more of an influencer where you get paid by the views, right? So it's really important to know the focus and the goal of each piece of content that you put into the world. Now, most of my audience that's following this podcast are entrepreneurs looking to make money, right? So unless you're a nonprofit, 9 times out of 10, sales is a goal. But we have to make sure that every piece of content you put out into the world aligns with the offer that you're selling, or it's not going to make sense to your buyer. It's not going to be logical to take the next step with you. So I want you to get super specific. If your goal is vague, like, oh, I want more followers, my cat could be your social media manager. And that's just a joke because I actually hate cats, but that's for a different podcast episode. The point is, it's got to be specific, right? SMART goals, Google it, okay? They got to be specific, measurable, actionable, achievable, all of those things. So I want to tell you a quick story. One of my students came to me and she was saying, I want to grow my social media. And I asked her, what does that mean for you? Right? What does growing your social media mean for you? And after digging some, we nailed down her goal was really to increase her Instagram engagement by 20% in 3 months. That was an achievable goal. It's measurable, right? It's a SMART goal. It's based on what her past increased engagement has been. So with a clear goal, we were able to build a strategy around that. Okay. And so when we really dug deep into understanding her audience, who are they? What are they like? Where do they hang out online? What problems do they have? How can she solve them? How is her offer related to that? We kind of stalked them on social media a little bit, and that's totally acceptable, by the way, for market research. But we created a persona and almost like an imaginary friend, right? That's business related. And we really discovered not only what is her client's problem, her ideal client's problem, but what do they think about that? What objections do they have to solving that problem? Why haven't they solved it yet? What fears? What myths are they believing? What mistakes are they making, right? For instance, when I was first starting out, I thought I knew my audience, right? Female entrepreneurs, mid-20s to early 30s, my age range. And after some deep diving into my analytics, and some social media stalking, I realized my core audience was more 35 to 55, honestly, because the way I teach, the way I talk, the way I coach really makes things super simple. So the audience age range, making it a little bit older, and I'm not calling you old, I promise, but a little older, my content was more geared towards them, because the younger generation took some of my teaching as condescending. When I would break it down step by step, they would be like, oh, I already know that, right? But the 45-year-old and 55-year-old really appreciated that because I made it stupid simple. So I realized my core audience was different, and I changed how I approached my content, not necessarily the topics, but how I covered them and the tone that I used. So we want to take your goals, align them to your content, and develop a content calendar. This is your blueprint. right? You need to plan out what you're posting, when and where. It's like meal prepping, but for your content. And trust me, just like with meal prepping, it saves you a lot of last minute panic and poor decisions, right? So no more microwave dinner kind of thing. So one of my clients used to post whenever she had time. She had a 9 to 5. She would just kind of, wing it as she went. A lot of times it was on her lunch break. Her engagement was all over the place because it was not planned. And when she got a second at work on her lunch break, she would just throw something up. So it wasn't strategic, right? Her engagement some days was great. Her sales were really low. But when we created a calendar together, and we scheduled her posts for the next 30 days, the result was amazing. Consistent posting can lead to more engagement, but consistent messaging leads to more sales. So write that down, save this episode so that you can come back and listen to that again, because that is key. It's also consistent branding, right? So when she stopped feeling like she was constantly scrambling for content ideas and started planning this out, spending just an hour on Sunday to get her ideas together, she made sure that every piece of content that went out into the world was aligned with her brand goals, her ideal client and her offer, and her sales goals. And that is how you create a strategic content plan. So it's really important to be consistent, but also be flexible. So I want you to stick to your plan, but don't be afraid to tweak it as you go, right? If something's not working, obviously we don't want to keep doing what's not working. We need to change it. So, make you a plan for 30 days, get it out there into the world, and then review your analytics, because I'm telling you, the problem you're looking to solve lays in your analytics. So one more quick story for you. I planned a series of posts on Instagram about rinse and repeat content strategy. I teach my rinse and repeat content strategy to all my students in my academy. It is my signature framework. And then halfway through this series that I had planned of reels, I noticed my audience was more interested in the automation piece, right? Not necessarily the framework of, hey, how are you doing this? But how are you automating the process of doing this? So I adjusted my calendar a little bit, right? I tweaked it a little bit, and my engagement really soared. And I learned the importance of being adaptable. So final step here is to review and adjust, right? Regularly check your analytics to see what's working, what's not. This really helps you refine your strategy and focus on what resonates with your audience. Because again, consistency is key, but consistently doing the wrong thing is still the wrong thing. So it's really important that you understand, and again, this episode is Content Strategy 101, why you need it and the basics of it, but you really do need to sit down and build your content house without it collapsing on you. You need to take that time, plan that content, make sure that it aligns with your call to actions, your hooks, your framework, your branding, your messaging, your goals. All of that has to be tied into your strategy, because it's really more about time management and how to get the most traffic and the most visibility on your content. And the only way to do that is to have a plan for it. So as I said, I really just dove deep into this like head first in my masterclass. I gave everyone that attended my masterclass templates to, really get clear on their ideal client, clear on their offer, templates to build that content strategy as a whole. So if you want more details on that masterclass, DM me the word revenue on IG and I'll make sure to get those for you. But as always, if you got any value out of this episode at all, I would love for you to leave me a review, subscribe to the podcast. It's my absolute love language. I do weekly trainings live in my Facebook community, Socially Ausome Entrepreneurs, at noon Central Standard Time every Wednesday. So if you're not already in there, make sure you plug in. I'll put the link in the show notes for you. But I have several trainings with visuals for you on content strategy in the group as well. So if this is something you're struggling with, go into that group, type strategy in the search bar. You'll be able to see all of the trainings I've done on there. And then, of course, you'll be in the group to get notified on every week's upcoming training. And then last but not least, as always, I want you to take what you're learning from these episodes and put them into your business and put them into action, because just listening to these and kind of taking it in doesn't help you. But you really need to focus on building out those goals, making sure they align with your offer, your ideal client, and having a plan. Because the best way to stop the what do I post today to make a sale is to have a plan. Okay? So as always, make it simple, make it social, make it awesome, and I'll see you next week.